Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less. And don't let anybody ever rip you off. Our web address, clark.com. When you have a question, clark.com/ask. Coming up in 20 minutes in today's Clark-rageous moment, when you want tech support, why is it that you're treated like dirt? I've got surprising info for you on that. In a half hour from now, is cancer something that just happens? Is it baked into your genetic cake? Well, I have new information for you about what role the way you live your life has to do with you ending up with a dreadful thing like cancer. I'll talk right now about Uber that is growing exponentially across the United States along with their competitor Lyft. And using Uber has led to a lot of calls into our show. People have been very unhappy about surge pricing, getting hit with bill shock with a huge bill. We've never had that call about Lyft, but we've had that repeatedly concerning Uber. And Uber will do a thing where they go 1.4 or 1.3 or 1.2 or whatever, where the rate you're charged is 2, 3, 4 times the normal price. There was an ugly story I shared with you back at Christmas time about someone who was charged 3 times the cost of their airline ticket to get from their home to the airport, a 12-mile trip, because there was a massive Uber surge on at the time. So Uber has gotten so much heat about this that the new app for Uber is going to no longer talk about the surges and all that. You will be able to see up front when you request a ride what the cost of that trip is going to be. You're not going to have to go poking around like you have had to do in the app to get an estimate of the ride. Now you'll know pretty much exactly. Well, I shouldn't say pretty much. The idea is you'll exactly know the cost of that trip. But my suggestion to you is that you become a customer of both Uber and Lyft, because their systems work differently. And you could be in a position where Uber is cheaper than Lyft. More often, Lyft will be cheaper than Uber. And so if cost matters, having both and being a customer of both is going to be the best way for you to save money. I have used both Uber and Lyft, and I've been a driver for both Uber and Lyft. And these things are growing so much because it just works. And of course, there are problems from time to time, and there are people who have suffered with their jobs who are taxi drivers because of what's happened with the market share growth of Uber and Lyft. And there's always things like that that happen in a marketplace where someone who does something will be dislocated by a new way of doing things. And it's a situation where the taxi industry was very tradition-bound, and it got chewed up by the ease of use of using Uber and Lyft. But ease does not equal cheap. Convenience does not equal cheap. And if you care about the cost, that's why I want you to be a customer of both. And rather than just click to book a car, check the price first. When you have a question for me on the Clark Howard Show, go to clark.com/ask. Cy is with us. Hello, Cy. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. Thank you.
Hey, I just want to say I enjoy listening to your station. You are a very intelligent man.
Well, you were so kind to say that.
Thank you.
My brothers debate which one of them taught me everything I know.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, hey, I have a question for you. It's actually 2 questions, and I think they're kind of related, though. I am actually going back to school, and it's going to cost me $50,000.
$50,000?
Yeah, it's actually an online college, and it would be like convenient for me to, I guess, study at night and try to find a job during the day. I'm 24. I just lost my job. So it's kind of, I'm in the situation where it's like, okay, I need to maybe go back to school and earn a degree and hopefully find a better job. But again, it's $50,000.
Right.
Financial aid, I guess.
All right. Well, I want to talk about other possibilities because you just about made my heart race to a level that's not safe for me.
Okay.
What about going to a state school at night? Because you'd take that $50,000 cost of completing your degree down to just several $1,000s. How much college do you have already?
Well, I have, a year at the, my local technical college, but it was just, a program, but that's completely different than the...
So you really are starting from scratch to get a 4-year college degree?
Right.
All right. I know this is not the question you asked me, but I'm sorry, I'm going to bring something else up instead. And that is, I would love it if you would consider going for your first 2 years of college at night at a local community college, many of which now allow you to complete many or all of your courses online.
Mm-hmm.
Because then those first 2 years will cost you somewhere between, $1,500 and maybe $3,000. Think about what a difference that makes in terms of what kind of debt obligations you'd have. $50,000 is way too much debt for you to take on for an undergraduate degree.
Yeah, and that was like, my other question was, okay, I applied for financial aid. They didn't approve me because I made, less than $30,000. And then it's like, what if I want to buy a house? How is a bank going to lend money, if I have this $50,000 debt on top of my current debt now? And
they're not gonna. Because the rules under the new rules for lending, lenders have to actually make sure that you can afford what you'd be taking on instead of just lending you money. Mm-hmm. And so let me make something real clear. I do not want to discourage you at all from going back to school. In fact, I love the idea of you going back to school. I think it's so key to creating more opportunities for yourself. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, I don't want you to have a false victory of getting a degree and then have for years and years this burden of this massive amount of student loan debt.
Mm-hmm.
So have you considered the community college route, or is that something you really have not considered?
I looked at some of the programs, and I'm enrolled right now in the human resource management program.
At the technical school or the community college?
Actually, no, it's through an online school.
Oh, okay. So you're already in this online school.
Right, correct. I just started.
I think that's a slippery slope for you, and I would de-enroll or whatever they call it there, and I want you to start over pronto at the local community college. I promise it will be a much better, more secure path for you without all the risks involved with the private university and the huge amount of debt you'd have to deal with. Our number is 877-87-CLARK. Rand is with us. Hello, Rand.
Hi, Clark. I'd like to talk to you about the travel websites.
Okay.
We've been trying to book a flight to Bangkok, and every time we start to book it, we got all the way to putting in the credit card number, and then it comes up one leg is not available. And then other times when we try to get on the website, we see the price and we try to book it, then the price goes up $500. What should I do?
All right. Well, one thing, I would like to encourage you to use Kayak. Have you tried Kayak?
Yes, we have.
And don't use Orbitz, Travelocity, and Expedia to try to find a bargain. Especially with international, in addition to Kayak, you should try Mobissimo.
Okay.
Mobissimo. Now, behind the curtain, let me tell you what's going on. Were you using, which websites were you using?
Expedia and Orbitz.
Okay. All right. Here's how it works behind the scenes. They use a mainframe computer. Each of them use And each of the airlines use their own mainframes. The availability that they're seeing at the big three travel sites, Orbitz, Expedia, and Travelocity, they're not all compatible. So when they think something's available, that may be old availability they're pulling from. So when they then try to actually book a flight, suddenly a fare they've shown you is not available at all. It is so frustrating because it feels like they're trying to pull one on you.
Correct.
But they're not, because I can tell you those people at Orbitz, Travelocity, and Expedia in no way want to make you mad, because all it does is make you mad, right?
Correct.
Because you're sitting there thinking, hey, I'm going to get to Bangkok for X number of dollars, and then you get there and say, just kidding. Now it's going to be this much more. So it's not like they're trying to frustrate you. It's just the problem with the computers that goes back. Guess how long this goes back with the computers?
I have no idea.
1970s.
Oh, boy.
So the industry way predates the internet, and so the systems have never been done in a way that makes them fully interoperable. And that's why you're seeing that. Now, the beauty of Kayak is sometimes you can have that with Kayak, but Kayak uses a different method of technology of searching for fare information than the big three. That's why Kayak's been gaining more and more market share. And what they do, when you try Kayak, you'll see they'll have found a fare here, 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 and here, wherever they find it. And then you might click, you want to try to buy it. They'll then redirect you to the website where they found it, improving the odds that a fare that they say is there will actually be there.
Okay.
Because it's just they use such a different method of shopping around and booking.
Okay. What would be a good price?
To Bangkok?
To Bangkok.
Well, one thing with Bangkok, always check fares from the West Coast, because from the eastern half of the United States, it's so easy to get a cheap fare to the West Coast. Mm-hmm. And there's more price competition from the West Coast to Thailand and other spots in Asia. So you want to try Vancouver, Seattle, San Francisco, and L.A. and see what kind of prices you find from the West Coast airports, and then you see what it would cost you to fly from the eastern half of the country out to one of the western departure airports.
Okay, well.
But in addition, Mobissimo and Kayak should be a real help.
Okay, well, thank you very much for your help.
Sure. One other thing, anytime you're trying to go to Asia, you'd be surprised how many times the best deals are going to be routings through Toronto, Montreal, or Vancouver. Here on the Clark Howard Show, we do the Clarkrageous moment because there are ways that people take advantage of you. I want you to protect yourself from. One area that drives everybody crazy is the customer no service you get when you call tech support at any company.
Rip-offs, outrages. It's a Clarkrageous moment.
I saw on a technology blog a story where it was kind of like confessions of people who work in tech support. And the reality is companies look at tech support as a cost center and alienate people that could become very loyal customers by treating you like dirt. And many times the tech support are people that are contract outside companies that they're hiring on what's called a per inquiry basis. And the people you're talking to are under great pressure to move through the calls very quickly, which is ironic because you might wait 40 minutes or an hour or whatever to talk to somebody. So one of the things you should know, and this is so Clarkrageous, is that no matter how steamed you are about how long you've waited or what it's been like, be polite to the person who answers the phone. It is not their fault that customer no service is set up to treat you like dirt when you call for tech support. But if you do get fired up and get nasty, what the confessions say is you're going to be put on hold for no reason again. They're going to say, oh, I need to go check something. They may go on break, whatever. Remember, that contract worker, it is not his or her fault that the company you are a customer of is purposely disrespecting you, purposely spitting on you and the money you spent to buy their product. So this is one of those cases where you get much more with sugar than you do with vinegar, or honey versus vinegar. Isn't that the expression? Honey versus vinegar. So I know you shouldn't have to jump through those hoops, but it's the way it is. If you have a product that you're having too much trouble getting to work, what do companies hate more than anything else? Returns. So you should give them what they deserve. If they are being so disrespectful to you that they make you wait forever and all you get is customer no service, use your right to return an item, and maybe, just maybe, companies eventually will learn how important it is to treat a customer with decency and respect instead of being Clark-rageous to you when whatever you bought just isn't getting the job done. Welcome to the Clark Howard Show, where it's about you learning ways to save more and spend less, and don't let anybody ever rip you off. You can follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. You got a question for me? Go to clark.com/ask. And by the way, clark.com is our new, easier to use website. Not only is the name shorter, but the information more easy to access when you get to clark.com. You know, I have what I call little league cancer. I was diagnosed with prostate cancer 8 years ago and have, in a shocking thing for many people, I've never been treated. I'm in something known as active surveillance, where I'm actively monitored and tested because I seem to have low-grade, insignificant, not life-threatening cancer in any way. An unusual thing. And what we learn about cancers over time is constantly shifting. And what seems to be the conventional wisdom is overturned repeatedly as science has false leads and then ultimately new information. One thing that is coming clearer, though, is that there are certain risk factors that we create that increase the odds of us getting a cancer. Now, a lot of it is just going to happen because of who we are. Nothing we can do will change it. Just what makes us up, what makes up our cells, whatever. And for somewhere around 75% of cancers, maybe 2/3 of cancer, somewhere in there, no matter what change you'd make, that cancer's coming. That's why you could have somebody who is like a super athlete who has always eaten a vegan a vegan diet and lives like this phenomenal lifestyle, and then they'll get stricken with a deadly cancer. You know, how do you square that? Well, because it was just going to happen. But instead of thinking of it with a fatalistic kind of thing that, well, why should I care? Think about what I said. There's a 1/4 to 1/3 chance that you could prevent a cancer that would be what they call lifestyle cancer. The number one example of that is smoking. I saw an item from the health reporter of the New York Times that there are 4 major lifestyle things that affect the likelihood or possibility of you getting cancer. So remember, if you accept that 2/3, 3/4 is just going to happen, but we talk about that other 1/4 to 1/3 that's because of how we live our lives. Smoking, today, that's obvious to people, right? What else? Excessive alcohol consumption. would be a second factor. Why does alcohol increase the likelihood of cancer? Beats me. I'm not smart enough to have any idea. Third factor, that you weigh too much. Obesity contributes to the possibility of developing cancer. Why? Again, don't know. And then the last factor is lack of exercise. The more you exercise, the more you reduce the chances that you will have a cancer. Now, on the smoking thing, one of the things that's really crazy that was in a medical study, it was in a medical journal recently, is that if you quit smoking 5 or more years ago, that there's a benefit even if you smoke for a while quitting, because when you get past 5 years, that being a contributing factor to you getting a cancer declines significantly. So the lifestyle change, just quitting smoking, beneficial. If you've been drinking a lot of drinks each week and you cut back to one a day, then one a day does not show leading to an increase in cancer incidence. Make that lifestyle change, you benefit. Carrying around too much weight, lose some of that weight, you lower the risk. And exercise, if you don't exercise, getting started with that. So all these factors are completely in your and my control. But remember, again, that will only deal with 1/4 to 1/3 of the possibilities of getting cancer. So you can just live the fatalistic thing and say, what difference does any of it make? I mean, the odds are overwhelming. It's just going to happen. Or you can look at it like baseball. If you hit over 300 in baseball, you're a fantastic batter at the plate. So why not pick up those odds and improve those odds in your life of staying healthy? Sharon is with us. Hi, Sharon.
Hi, how are you?
Great, Sharon. Hope everything's fantastic for you.
Yes, it's going great. But my question is, my daughter went to a university. Oh, let me cut this down. My daughter went to a university. She got her degree, but she's stuck with a lot of student loan debt. Well, she has 3 jobs she's trying to pay back, but she just can't. Her loan is over $110,000.
$110,000.
I swear I want to cry.
How much of that 110, do you know how much is federal and how much of those stinky, rotten private loans?
No, it was a total of 150.
But I mean, of 110 is left?
Yeah, it's 100. Well, she got the scholarships and everything.
Right, but I mean, of the 110,000, do you happen to know how much of her loan money is private loans and how much is federal loans?
How much is private loans and how much is federal loans?
Yeah, that's very important.
How much is private loans?
Oh, is she there?
Yes.
Oh, can you just put her on the phone, Sharon? Let me ask her.
No, I'm saying no, she's not there. I'm talking to my mother because my mother co-signed the loans.
Oh, all right. So if your mother co-signed, they're likely overwhelmingly private loans.
Ma, is it a private loan? Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I can't really say it's the
right.
S one.
Well, this is some homework. This is some homework for you after we talk. Okay, Sharon?
Okay.
Because on the federal loans, there are 2 different programs for repayment on the federal loans that are very, very friendly to your daughter.
Okay.
And on those federal loans, what happens is the payment that's required is reduced based on what she's earning. And as long as she pays the reduced amount, and it can be, believe it or not, if your daughter is really struggling, the payment can be reduced to 0, and she still be considered to be current and earning months of credit towards the remainder of her balance ultimately being forgiven.
Okay, that's great.
Based on her job, federal loans are forgiven usually in either 10 years or 25 years. And based on the new methods of paying those loans, a huge portion of the loans is not paid, it's forgiven. So for the federal loans, it's a really decent path for her that's not going to leave her drowning. And I have at clarkhoward.com info on how the various federal loan payment programs work, and I have a web address I'd like to give you as well. Do you have a pen that I can give you a web address?
I'm ready.
IBR for income-based repayment.
IBR what?
Info, INFO.
INFO.
.org.
.org.
And it does a great job. Some of what I'm explaining that seems like weird stuff, you go to that website after we talk, it'll be much clearer.
Okay.
All right, now let's deal with the other thing. Your mom co-signing these loans for your daughter, I bet a lot of those loans are private loans.
Are they private, Ma?
Well, you'll find out after we talk.
Okay, she just told me, and I don't know if I can say it, but it was with the S, May.
Sally Mae. Sally Mae, depending on when your daughter was in school, could be either private loans or government loans. If they are private loans with Sally Mae, I can't sugarcoat this. That's ugly. It's a terrible circumstance. The private student loan program, due to corruption in Washington, has been made extraordinarily horrendous for students and their families. It is something your daughter is going to have to tough it out through, the portion of her loans that are private loans. The portion, hopefully a significant amount of the 110, are federal loans. Those, it's going to be a much easier path for her. The private loans, all that extra stuff she's doing, working 3 jobs, she needs to devote every penny she can to getting out from under any of the private loans she has. They are a recipe for misery. And Sharon, find out what you got. Go look at this website. Look at clarkhoward.com. Look at the info I have on the federal student loans. You'll have much more peace of mind about that portion of her loans. You got to figure out what of her loans are federal, what's private, and then you treat them separately, you treat them differently. But here's the thing. If you have a son or daughter approaching college, or in college, or you yourself are in school, get off the loan train. Do not take on an inordinate amount of student loans. Never more in student loans than you're likely to earn in total what you're likely to earn the first year on a new job. They are agonizing for people if you take on too much student loan debt. Best of luck to you, Sharon, and your daughter, and your mom. Our number on the Clark Howard Show, 877-87-CLARK. Elaine is with us. Hello, Elaine.
Hey, Clark.
Elaine, how are you?
I'm wonderful, thank you.
How can I be of service?
Okay, I have a 93-year-old friend that I keep an eye on, and she has been getting calls quite regularly from a very nice gentleman at eBay who keeps asking for her husband, who's been deceased for 11 years. And
eBay does not call people.
Okay, well, today he happened to call and I was there, and I told him that he absolutely needed to stop calling, and he said that she has a right to try and find out for them who's using his eBay account, her deceased husband's eBay account. And I said she doesn't have any responsibility for that at all. But my question is, she knows to just put the phone down, but how do we stop them calling? Is there a way?
No.
I asked the man.
The odds that that's someone from eBay are so close to zero, I can't even say how close to zero it is. So whoever it is, in some way, very likely is a con artist.
Okay, I asked him to put it in writing if he felt that she was responsible, and he said that eBay is a paperless company, which I just laughed. And but is there any way to stop these people calling? I mean, that's
no, because if they've got a 93-year-old, they're targeting a 93-year-old to scam.
Right.
It is elder abuse is just rampant around the country.
Okay.
And she should not answer these phone calls. Does she have caller ID?
she doesn't, but she often lets it go to the machine because she doesn't.
That's what she should do then.
Okay.
And until and unless the fraudster leaves her alone,
Okay.
she should let every call go to an answering machine, and she can hear who's calling on the answering machine message,
Right.
and pick up when it's friend, ignore it when it's foe.
Okay, great. I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
And you know what else? Elaine,
Yes.
give yourself some props. You're a great friend to watch out for her.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Yes, she appreciates it.
Have a great day.
Thank you, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Jay joins us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Jay.
Hey, Clark. How are you?
Great, thank you. Jay, how many robocalls are you getting a day?
Averaging about 2 to 4 political telemarketing calls a day, sometimes more.
Yeah, I'm getting that complaint constantly, and people come up to me and say, what can we do about it? This morning I was at the bagel shop, and somebody was talking to me about it. Tell me, what can I do? What technology can I use? How can we stop these politician robocalls? And people are pulling their hair out about it.
It's like spam, but in the form of phone calls. But unlike spam, I can't hit the unsubscribe button.
Well, it's considered to be constitutionally protected free speech for the politicians, even though businesses don't have that protection and can't do the robocalls.
Right. As I understand, when they enacted the no-call list, they exempted themselves.
Yep. And the excuse was that it was a constitutional issue. That means you still have a home phone?
Yes.
Okay. So do you really need to still have a home phone?
Well, we have a burglar alarm system, which is tied in.
All right. So that home phone costs you, what, $35 a month?
Probably about that, yep.
Okay. So you can, with your burglar alarm company, you can set up for wireless monitoring.
Okay.
And you'll save $400 and something a year dumping the phone line from the monopoly local phone company. You'll shut down the robocalls from the politicos, and you'll pay a little more each month. Usually it's like, if there is an extra charge, like $5 a month for the wireless monitoring, $5 extra.
Okay.
Although there are now a number of companies that are doing sub $20 a month monitoring wireless.
Okay.
How much do you pay now a month for your burglar alarm monitoring?
I think it's about $18 a month.
Oh, so you're at a very good price.
Yeah.
So think about how much money you'll save overall if you even have to bump it up a few bucks a month. But
Well, that would be great.
When's the last time you said, I got to go pick up and use my home phone?
It seems like probably 1 out of 30 calls or somebody that I really want to talk to, and those people also have our cell line, so they can just call our cell line. So you're right, it doesn't seem like a big deal to get rid of your landline.
Yeah, so the politicians, you always wondered if a politician would ever do anything for you, and now the politicians are going to save you $400 and something a year.
That sounds good. Can they get a hold of my cell number?
So far, that's not happening. I'm not hearing from anybody that the politicos are hassling you with the robocalls to cell phones, and we'll have to wait and see on that one. But if a politician wants to make sure he or she does not get your vote, they'll start robocalling your cell phone, and then you'll be certain to vote for their opponent, whoever their opponent is. Oh, the robocalls.
You know, when you're going to buy a car, pricing information is great and necessary, but there's more to doing it than just the price. There's the actual buying experience. If you want to enjoy a better one, you should go to a True Car certified dealer. They're there to help you find the car that you want, and they're also what make True Car unique. With True Car, you can connect with a local certified dealer that you choose, so you can lock in a guaranteed savings off the MSRP and enjoy a totally better buying experience. And by better, they also mean faster. Over 2 million cars have already been sold to True Car users who have visited their True Car certified dealer. And there are over 11,000 True Car certified dealers nationwide, so it's probably pretty easy to find one near you. And check this, for a new car, average True Car users save $3,279 off MSRP. All right, so you're probably wondering, how do I do this? It's easy. Just go to TrueCar.com or right there on your phone, download the TrueCar app. You can find the car you want, see the TrueCar pricing curve, which shows you what other people in your area paid for the same car, and that way you can know you're getting a good price and feel confident. Then you'll get a guaranteed savings certificate from the TrueCar certified dealer. Go to the dealer, and your guaranteed savings off MSRP will be honored, and you enjoy a quick, easy experience. How's that for car buying? So when you're ready to buy a new car, or even a used one, visit TrueCar.com or download the TrueCar app and enjoy the better car buying experience. Some features are not available in all states.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's about your empowerment with knowledge that'll help you live a more complete financial life. I want you to learn ideas from me so you can save more, spend less, and avoid getting ripped off. You know, when I talk about a more complete financial life, what I mean is you're in charge, you're in control, you have a plan, and you're controlling the money. It's not controlling you. And that's a cumulative effect, hopefully, of the advice and guidance and the calls you hear on our show. But there are times that you may feel that I'm not getting it done, that I'm giving people a bum steer, bad advice, whatever. That's why if you go to Clark.com, you go to our community section, you'll see our discussion boards, our message boards. One of the ones there is called Clark Stinks. And it's where you, if I've frustrated you or disappointed you, you go there and you post so that others can see your frustrations, maybe share theirs there as well, and I can learn to serve you better. Once each week, our executive producer, Krista, looks through your posts on Clark Stinks and shares her favorite ones with you right here on the air.
I should have never encouraged you to speak.
You must think I'm pretty stupid.
You should be ashamed of yourself.
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong.
Maybe you're right, pal.
And before you start talking, Krista, would you share briefly what are the things you look for in a Clark Stinks post that makes the cut to get here on the air? Because I know people get frustrated when they post there and don't make it on the air.
Right. No, I mean, really, I take almost everything. It's just a matter of what I can read. So if your post is concise, that makes it a lot easier to be able to read on the air. Sometimes I read long ones, but not usually. And so whatever, it's not for me to judge what their stink is. So I don't look for any particular content.
But does humor help get somebody to the front of the list?
Well, I always love that. But, some people don't find it funny if they think you stink. So I'm not going to, ban them. But you and I do like to have a good laugh over them because they are kind of funny sometimes, right?
Right.
People do have a great sense of humor. So let's start with this one. A few days ago, a woman was debating paying her child's orthodontist up front for a discount or using a 2-year payment plan. She had a chance of job transfer and didn't want to lose the upfront cost if she prepaid and left the area she lives in. My guess is the payment plan is not a pay-as-you-go type deal. She is more than likely obligated to the cost of the braces no matter how she pays or whether or not she finishes out the 2-year procedure. The orthodontist may even sell that 2-year payment contract to a third party, much like a furniture store does, so the orthodontist can still get the majority of their money up front.
So that's an interesting post because it is true in medicine now that a lot of people who are selling procedures that are not covered by insurance or only very partially covered by any kind of insurance are offering these plans that are peddled to them by the finance companies as a way for them to get sure cash. And so they discount the retail price to the third-party financing company. And the third-party financing company is charging interest to you for the payment plan, or the medical professional offers a greater discount on the note to the company that's doing the financing in return for it being 0% financing.
We all love you, Clark, but I need to point out why you are both right and wrong about the healthcare market. You are correct in that in theory, a pure market will deliver the best quality at the best price. Unfortunately, in the world today, a free market requires some resources to have cycles of scarcity, which is fine in some markets, but it is inhuman and cruel in the healthcare market. Another name for free market healthcare is out-of-pocket healthcare, where only those that have money for healthcare are able to get it. There are a few examples of this, such as Cambodia and rural India, but that is not the system that we want for people that live in the U.S. There are no examples of free market healthcare that have ever worked anywhere in the world, yet there are examples from all other industrialized countries that show a compassionate healthcare system that provides healthcare for all people can actually provide cheaper and higher quality care than what we are experiencing right now. The U.S. stands alone. We are the only industrialized nation that allows people to go without coverage for healthcare expenses, creating a system where the top cause of bankruptcy is healthcare expenses and where many people go without and die due to a lack of coverage. Let's be human and take care of our fellow man and provide healthcare to everyone.
I appreciate that post about single-payer healthcare. It is true that in Canada and in all of Western Europe, healthcare works essentially on a single-payer basis, that the government is the arbiter of what care you receive. For our culture, that's a hard sell because of the rationing choices that are then being put into the hands of government, particularly at a time in American history where there's such distrust of institutions generally and government specifically. I don't think that we are, as a country, going to really consider a single-payer healthcare system, because government would then be deciding if you could have that MRI or if the machinery for a new test would be available near where you live. Anytime you have government involved in lowering the cost of healthcare, it does lead to some level of rationing of care and availability.
Here's a funny one. If Costco were your real girlfriend, she would have dumped you for not knowing that Costco is offering free hearing tests. You went on about having to pay $5 for a hearing test app of some kind the other day. This is on Costco.com, and they list what their hearing aid centers offer.
I've had the free hearing test at Costco, and so I should have mentioned that. So what happened, Krista, was when we were on book tour a few years ago for my last book, that all the flying, my hearing, just happened to be having a physical after we'd been on a 2-week run, city after city after city, flying for the last book. And so I go for the physical and I have the hearing test, and I just wasn't hearing out of one ear well at all. So I get around to it a few weeks later and go to Costco Hearing Aid Center and have the hearing test, and the person said, "You hear perfectly. I don't know what your doctor's talking about." And my next physical I had, my hearing was fine, too. So I did take advantage of the free hearing test.
All right. You don't stink, but you stated that Betterment and Wealthfront robo-investment companies use artificial intelligence. Do they really? I fail to see how setting up an asset allocation according to a client's risk survey or doing tax loss harvesting in a taxable account has much to do with artificial intelligence. If I am wrong, could someone please explain the AI aspect?
So the use of artificial intelligence as a term there is probably a very poor choice of words on my part. It is a computer-based modeling that crunches your situation, your self-assessment, and your goals, and comes up with a plan based on overall market factors and rebalancing your investments. Just calling it artificial intelligence is a shorthand kind of way of saying that the computer's crunching all the stuff and making it happen, but you're right. That is not a proper use of the term AI.
A lot of healthcare posts in this Clark Stinks edition, so here's another one. They're all different, though. Hey, Clark, enjoy the show. Lots of good info. With healthcare ever increasing in cost and the general public takes no personal responsibility for their health, then the government needs to get involved. While I maintain good health through exercise and proper diet and consume very few healthcare dollars, while others eat bad, smoke, drink, etc., and consume a huge amount of health care resources. If they had a policy where the cost of insurance is based on health factors you control, where people who are responsible for their health pay proportion to what they use, which would be much less than we pay right now. Those huge fat slobs will pay double and then smoke them if you got them. Otherwise, let the government force the issue for all of society to benefit. Same thing for motorcycle helmet laws. If you crack your head open because you choose not to wear a helmet, then why should I pay for his or her reckless choice and pay big?
Wow. Okay. Go back to that statement about the people that are overweight.
You want me to read it again?
Well, it's just not very friendly.
And those huge fat slobs would pay double. Then fine, smoke them if you got them. Otherwise, let the government force the issue for all of society to benefit.
Okay, so I don't care for the wording of that. And there are people that in American society, I mean, gosh, you go somewhere in a public place and you see that we as Americans could afford generally to lose some weight. But a lot of it is based on the fact that the nature of work has changed and the human body has not been able to compensate for that. We used to have a shortage of calories available and a surplus of extreme physical labor. And so it's a hard adjustment with food now available everywhere of every calorie count you could think of. Having risk-based pricing based on how you live your life for healthcare, we may get there. There are employers that have been doing that already, and I've talked about that. Employers that won't hire smokers because they cost so much more on the healthcare plans. It's just anything we do like that. Maybe another way of doing it is you reward those with lower costs who meet certain check marks instead of doing it as a gotcha punishment for those who have things they could improve on.
Okay, one more healthcare. You stated that healthcare doesn't care about customer service. You are so wrong. I have worked as an RN in an acute care hospital for 38 years, and believe me, patient satisfaction is a top priority. Patient satisfaction surveys are sent out upon discharge, and the results are posted for the staff to see and discussed at staff meetings. If there are complaints, areas of improvement are implemented. There is a way to track who wrote the survey, and if it's something major, that customer is contacted and the hospital tries to make it right with them. Also, in this day of high deductible insurance plans, if the customer is unable to pay their bill in full, the hospital sets up a payment plan with them that is interest-free. I would call that pretty good customer service. In the future, instead of making a blanket statement about healthcare in general, check your facts and report it appropriately.
I appreciate your passion for what you do for a living and your professional concern for the patients you serve, the customers you serve, and that's great to hear. I would say that that's not generally what is going on in the culture of medicine, but that's just my own experience. One thing you said in your post, though, that I think is really illuminating, people are filling out surveys they think are anonymous, but can be tracked back to the individual. That's something that is why I have never filled out an employee survey at any place I've ever worked, because I never believe them that they're anonymous.
Clark, it is a common cliche that 50% of marriages end in divorce. On a recent show, you actually went one better and said that more than 50% of marriages end in divorce. Neither is true. The cliche came about many years ago when the number of divorces in a given year was about 50% of the number of marriages in the same year. This was obviously a crude statistic and was not a comparison of the same marriages. Although data for the success of marriages over time is more difficult to obtain than simply comparing marriages and divorces within a limited time period, many such studies do exist. They all indicate that the overall divorce rate of marriages is somewhere around 30 or 35%, depending on the time period. And the divorce rate has been going down markedly in recent years. I know from listening to you over the years that you were usually careful not to use typical statistical cliches that are thrown out. So I was surprised to hear you throw out this one.
I'm stunned.
Oh, and that was from Bruce.
Bruce, I have never heard that low a stated number on divorces in the United States. I am beyond surprised. I'll go check up on the numbers because that is much, much lower than anything I've ever heard reported.
Maybe some nice news to end the Clark Stinks today.
Absolutely. And I love your posts. Interesting how many responses there were to what I did, the healthcare thing. The reason there were so many on that is I've been doing a series of the equivalent of campaign speeches, the campaign speech that you're never going to hear because it's not comfortable to hear. And so they are generating strong reactions, obviously, particularly with the one that I did about healthcare. You got an opinion about something you feel I could do better, please go to Clark.com, go to community, and then go to our message board, Clark Stinks, and let me know. Kevin is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hello, Kevin.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you, Kevin. You have a question I don't think anybody's ever asked me.
Okay.
What is it?
Curious about looking for luggage and or a good carry bag, travel bag, and looked on your website, didn't happen to see anything. Wondering, is there something you recommend coming from the industry? Do you spend money or do you just go to the big box stores and the like?
Well, I'll tell you what suitcase I travel with, and it's an expensive one. I have the Kirkland Signature carry-on suitcase, the Costco private label suitcase.
Okay.
It's hard-sided on one half, soft-sided on the other. Fits in the overhead bin on any plane except those little wind-up toy commuter planes. And it's a $99 suitcase. And it is virtually indestructible. It wheels beautifully. It has 4 wheels. It's a great, great suitcase. But for people who are not Costco members, or if you don't want to spend as much money as $100 on a suitcase, I like to go to ebags.com. Do you know that website?
I do not.
If you go to ebags.com, I don't know how good their prices are, but a lot of people who travel a lot go there, and they write these reviews that they're just fierce about. It's amazing, this personal connection people have with luggage. And they'll rate them from 1 to 5 stars, and you get the wisdom of the crowd on what suitcase they like in each type, carry-on or big bag or whatever.
I like it.
The advantage of the Costco bag, though, is, it's guaranteed forever.
Okay.
And if one breaks, if they can't fix it, they just give you your money back and you can buy a new suitcase.
It's something they always carry. It's always in their line.
I've never seen them not have one, and they're using Kaizen, the Japanese concept of continuous improvement. They, every few years, come out with a new Kirkland Signature that they integrate improvements over the last one, and this one really is the best one they've ever had. It comes in any color you like as long as it's black.
Stay tuned for 60 seconds of AP News headlines right after this podcast.
I'm so glad you're with us on the Clark Howard Show, where it's all about you learning ways to keep more of what you make. You can follow me at facebook.com/Clark Howard. On the web, clark.com. When you have a question for me, clark.com/ask. I have a teenage driver in the house, and she was recently bragging on herself that she hadn't had a wreck yet. And I'm like, man, is it like a rite of passage that every new driver is supposed to be in at least a fender bender? And so far, knock on wood, nothing has happened. But for auto insurers, it is terrifying for them when you have a new driver in the household. And a study that was done by insurancequotes.com finds that the average premium increase once a kid becomes a driver in your household is roughly 80%, 80%. Truth be told, that doesn't even equal the added risk to the insurer. I mean, the risk factor for them financially is much higher than even what the premium increase is. So it is an ugly thing when you're facing those much higher bills. I remember when she became of age and I called my insurer and got the quote. It was like, did you really mean to add that extra zero to the new premium? And they did. I mean, it was a huge increase. And there are some things you need to know that may help you, and it varies by state how much an insurer can eat you alive. But one thing there are actually a few things to consider. One, in some states, it will be cheaper for your teenager to be on his or her own insurance policy. In others, it's more expensive to do that. If you have an agent, you're with someone that's an independent agent, you have an agent for what's known as a captive agent, like with Allstate or State Farm, you can call him or her and say, here's the deal. Our son or daughter is about to be of driving age. What's going to be the cheapest way to insure? Is it going to be under our policy, on a separate, that kind of thing? Another thing that matters is for your teenager to be driving a car that is cheap enough that you don't have to buy collision and comprehensive on it. You're only insuring for liability. If your child is getting good grades in school, there are a number of insurers that will give you a better deal if they've got a good grade average. I don't get it, but insurers believe that there's a lower risk level the better somebody's grades are in school. Really? Another thing you might ask is something that may help make your son or daughter a better driver, and depending on your insurer, may get you lower rates, is if you track their driving. Many insurers now offer a service where they track how your child is driving the vehicle, just like they offer tracking for you. And they can tell you and reflect it even on your insurance rates if they're doing jackrabbit stops or starts, if they're driving recklessly. And so doing things like that are things that you can consider. But beyond cost, the rule that we have is she cannot listen to the radio while she's driving. Radio is extremely distracting. And the cell phone, she knows that she can't text, obviously, which is a big problem with teenagers. And what I have said to her is that if she needs to text somebody, if she needs to make a call, pull off to the side. And as best I know, she's been honoring that. But it's one of the things you have to constantly remind a teenager, because, yes, money is one thing, but safety is the more important thing. Margaret is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Margaret, you have a travel-related question that is one that has many answers.
Oh, boy. Well, I am shopping for a travel credit card, and I've gone to a couple of different, websites shopping, and the more I read, the more bogged down I get. I just can't figure out what might be best for us.
Well, the airline cards, the credit cards tied into a specific airline, are quickly becoming worthless because it's become so extremely difficult to redeem those frequent flyer miles once you have the accumulation of points. And it varies by airline, but Delta is the most difficult of all the U.S. airlines to redeem miles on. And as a general rule, Virgin America and Southwest are the easiest to redeem frequent flyer miles on. But if you get a card from United, United's airline card, you get the Delta card, you get an American card, it's just so hard to redeem those miles that it's a false balance. And I would not really bother with those unless you're specifically getting one for certain privileges like early boarding or maybe being able to check a bag for free that they would charge you for otherwise.
No, that's
Are you looking for a card to earn free travel, domestic or international, or free hotel stays, what you're interested in? What excites you the most?
Well, it would be nice if it was well-rounded, for hotels and rental cars and so forth. But initially, when I first started shopping, it was to be able to have to get airline miles, and that would be.
Well, I'll tell you the one that in survey after survey comes out as the top of the heap when you want to be able to get free airline tickets.
Okay.
It's one called the Capital One Venture Rewards Credit Card.
Okay, and I've looked at that one. There's two of them. One has an annual fee and the other one doesn't.
Yeah, if you are going to charge a significant amount on a card over the year, the Capital One that has the annual fee is the better choice.
Okay.
And so that one gets you the most efficient conversion from dollars charged into free domestic U.S. airline tickets.
So it's easy to use, so to speak?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, that's why that one comes at the top of surveys. But I can help you drill it down much more narrow for your specific interests and your charge pattern.
I appreciate it.
I'm going to give you two websites I'd like you to go to and survey for the cards. One is called NerdWallet.
That's where I am right now.
Okay. And the second one is Credit Card TuneUp. You go to Credit Card TuneUp, you'll be able to put in your exact typical charge pattern, and it will use algorithms to come up with a list from the absolute best reward card for you to have on down the list and show you the equivalent and monetary value of the rewards you would earn.
Okay.
But you know my favorite kind of reward card?
Cashback?
You got it. I love the cashback cards, Margaret, because nobody says, oh, we're out of the allocation for cash back, or you can only use your cash back on the third Tuesday of the fourth month of the year, and only after 9 o'clock at night.
Well, that's what I'm trying to avoid with a travel card, and I have thought about just getting a cashback card, which I do not have now, and I don't know if you have a recommendation for that or not.
Well, I like the Costco American Express card.
Okay.
Are you a Costco member?
Yes, I am. Costco's
American Express card you get one level of reward for gasoline, restaurants, and travel. You get only a 1% cash back for everything else.
Okay.
But it is a decent thing, and what they do is they issue you a voucher once a year that you have to take to a Costco to cash. Mm-hmm. And the reason they have you take it to Costco to cash is they hope once you're there, you'll just spend it in the Costco, but you don't have to.
Well, I guess that would be easy to do. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Well, I sure appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Sure. Have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
Sure. Robin is with us. Robin?
Yes.
I never want to go mattress shopping with you because you seem to only be able to pick out lemons. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm having a problem.
Okay, no company names, no brand names, anything like that, but what's happened?
Well, I bought a mattress 5 months ago. It was defective. They replaced it.
What made it defective? Was it just like sagging in certain places or something?
Yeah, I was sleeping like in a dip. I had to actually get help getting out of my side of the bed.
No way.
Yeah, it was that bad.
Wow.
So they replaced it with the same mattress, and this one seemed kind of funny in the beginning. I thought, well, maybe it's just me. Well, I waited a little bit, and this is doing the same exact thing.
Well, that is very unusual. I don't get that complaint a lot. I'll get complaints from people about mattresses that it's much softer than you thought it would be, or it's much firmer than you expected, or whatever. But I'd never get somebody saying that a mattress today that soon would be defective, lightning striking twice. So the retailer was pretty accommodating the first time replacing it. Where are you now with two defective ones?
Well, I called and they said that they could either send me another one and take my chances, or I could go to the store where I bought it and look for another brand or something. As long as it's the same price, I could do that. But I don't know. It's just been a real hassle, and I don't know whether I should just say no, I want my money back, and go.
Have they offered you your money back?
Well, they didn't. I kind of asked them if that as an option, and beating around the bush, I think he said, yeah, I could be an option, because we haven't paid it off completely yet. We've been waiting.
Well, take the money. I mean, if they said they'd give you a refund and you can go start over somewhere else, I could see after two failures with a mattress, you'd be at a point where you'd say, yeah, I'd just like my money back. And normally in the bedding business, they will not give you a refund. They'll replace the bed over and over and over again, but they will not give you your money back. But if they've offered at this store, if you think they've offered you a refund, take the refund.
Yeah, but I'm not for 100% for sure that's what he meant. I mean, he
well,
said
I think go into the store, talk to the manager, and say that what you'd like, that you've lost confidence in them and that you just like your money back.
Yeah.
Now, again, I'm sure when you bought it, that it came with a store policy that all they agreed to do was to replace it. But I think if you've been 2 times down this road, it is reasonable for you to ask for a refund.
Yeah. Okay.
Why do you sound so discouraged?
Well, it's just, I just want a mattress. I've been wanting this mattress for, a good night's sleep forever. And I don't know, I just thought maybe, you think it's bad that if I ask for some kind of compensation for my back problems and my...
No, forget that. Forget that. All you start asking for stuff like that, they're going to do nothing for you.
Nothing, okay.
So if they'll give you your money back, take your money...
Take it and run.
And
okay.
Consumer Reports, run to your nearest library branch, because Consumer Reports has done a great review of where to buy a bed, who makes the best mattresses, and there's a regional chain out of Ohio that has spread to a lot of states that came in first in the Consumer Reports survey, and that's something called, you may not have ever heard of them, called Original Mattress Factory. I don't know if they're in your area, but they were the highest rated. Second highest rated was Costco Wholesale. So if you are looking for a mattress that's going to give you a good night's sleep, go get your money back, go to the library, read the Consumer Reports, and then buy what they have tested and they recommend is best for you to get that good night's sleep. Douglas is with us on the Clark Howard Show. Hi, Douglas.
Hello, Clark.
Douglas, how can I be of service to you?
I was looking at my portfolio lately and trying to figure out, how much I had invested overseas and how much in the United States. And then I was looking at how much percent of the world market cap is in the United States. And, I found this report that puts it at 40%. I just thought that was extremely high for one country. And I was just wondering, why aren't other countries more into stocks?
Well, actually, it's an emerging story, if you will, that world capitalism now is overwhelmingly outside the United States. And over time, simply because we're starting at such a large base here, the greatest growth in capitalism is going to be outside the United States, not inside the United States. So that's why it's not unpatriotic. It is a smart strategy for long-term financial security to heavily invest outside the United States as well as here. But I got a little trick of the game for you. You ready?
Sure.
All right, so let's say you own only U.S. stocks, just for argument's sake. You still own a big part of what's going on outside the United States because most large American companies do a big chunk, if not the majority, of their activity outside the U.S., not here. So you have a play in world capitalism even if you only own U.S. stocks. But I don't think that's enough. I think that diversifying where you own what's known as a developed market fund outside the United States and also owning a third world fund that today we call, to be politically correct, an emerging market fund is important because it gives you that exposure to the larger financial system of the world.
What's a good percentage, I guess, in like emerging versus developed markets outside the U.S.?
Well, there is no one right answer to that, but if I were giving you just absolute back of the envelope, I would say 50% U.S., 30% developed world outside the U.S., and 20% emerging market.
Okay.
But that's just for me. And there are, if you picked up something like Barron's Magazine, which is for dull people like me who read about investments all the time, you would see very, very smart, accomplished people that would give very strong arguments for all different ratios. It's very common people will say that you should be 25% overseas, 75% here for your stock mix, where for me it's 50, 30, 20. It's because I do believe that economic growth, as I've said over and over again, the United States is not done. We have a very bright future in front of us, but simply because the other economies in the world, particularly the third world ones, are starting from such a small base, that ultimately the possibility for long-term wealth and growth is going to be in the third world more than here. It's very unstable, which is why I would say you wouldn't want to have more than 20% exposed in the third world.
Okay, well, that sounds good.
Best of luck as you figure out the portfolio. And again, there's no one right answer for how much goes in each place.
Thanks for listening to the Clark Howard Podcast. Download new episodes every Monday through Friday at podcastone.com. That's podcastone.com. Stay tuned for the latest AP News headlines from Podcast One right after this. When shopping for car insurance, consider this. Geico has been saving people money on car insurance for over 75 years. So if you're serious about savings, it's simple. Go to geico.com. After 75 years, they know how to save you money.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson. Donald Trump endorsed House Speaker Paul Ryan's re-election late tonight, ending a 4-day standoff between the most powerful men in the GOP. Ryan, like other top Wisconsin Republicans, did not attend Trump's event in their state. Having refused to endorse the speaker earlier in the week, Trump said, quote, "We have to unite," as he vowed to support Ryan in next week's primary contest. It was a stunning reversal for Trump, a candidate who is known for his refusal to admit mistakes and whose general election campaign has been defined by his constant attacks on fellow Republicans. Ryan reiterated his support for Trump hours before the endorsement, but the Wisconsin Republican told 620 WTMJ Milwaukee his support was not a blank check.
With any endorsement of anybody, there's never a blank check, and you know that, and that's how I've always felt.
AP Update, I'm Ross Simpson.